Hey, welcome back, folks. So today we're going to talk about combs. Since we've got our washed Jacob fleece all ready to go here. Um, right. So these are the combs that I have. There's a lot of different kinds of combs. These are Elvin Raymer mini combs, and they come in this set where you can securely hold the combs with the tines in so they're not a danger in storage, and a place to secure them to a desk or a table so that you can have one locked in place and work across it with the other. Alternatively, these combs are small enough that you probably could do a handheld type of back and forth, kind of like you do with hand carders. But I generally use these with one fixed in place on the table. And to do that, um, you'll just insert this here. Use the pin to lock it in place. And then we're going to take our fleece here. And when we're combing, we don't need to have picked the fleece apart already. We want to take locks of this fleece and lash it onto the combs at the base here, like that. And we don't need to put a huge amount of fiber on the combs. We don't want to pack it down really hard either. We'll just give ourselves a moderate amount of fleece to work with. That'll do to start, and we can pick off any miscellaneous vegetable matter that might come loose. So when you're working with combs, the thing to keep in mind is that you don't want to be working with the tines of each one parallel like this. If you approach the fiber like this, you're just going to be pushing it against itself at the base of this comb and further compacting it, making it more difficult to pull those fibers loose and transfer them onto the other comb. So what we're going to do is we're going to move perpendicularly with one comb across the other this way, or across this way, but never down against it and never up, because you're just going to pull the fiber off the base. And the other thing to keep in mind is that you don't want to dig into this at the middle or the base of these fibers. We're going to work from the tips inward to just lightly grab and open these fibers. You might get some transferring right off the bat, but we're going to keep those tips pointing outward, working across the fiber, slowly working to pull these fibers loose, and in the process we're aligning and opening up these locks. You might notice if you've got a fair bit of vegetable matter embedded here, you might see some of that fall out beneath as these locks are opened up and the fibers are separated. And you want to get as much good usable fiber off of this first comb as you can. If you see that things are getting kind of stuck in there, you can encourage them out a little bit. Basically, you'll find that at the end you're left with little bits and perhaps some compacted vegetable matter, if there is some in there, that you can just call waste and set aside or drop below to pick up later. So now we have the bulk of this fiber on the other comb. And at this point, we could change places of the combs and lock this one in and do much the same thing. transferring it onto the moving comb, or we can transfer the fiber from this comb to the stationary one by, again, moving perpendicularly. Of course, this time perpendicularly means down or up, but down is much more manageable typically. So again, working from the tips inward. Getting a little bit staticky. If you do have a fleece that gets a little staticky on you when you're processing it like this, you could always spritz it with a little bit of a water and olive oil mist, and that would keep the static to a minimum. Some people also use that kind of a mixture to control static and smooth out fibers when they're spinning. But that's a common traditional kind of preparation thing to do. Alright, so we've got a little bit more waist, short bits. And so this, you can do as many passes as is necessary to get your fiber cleaned up and get those locks all separated, but 2 I think is going to do it for us on this one. And so at this point we are ready to remove the fiber from the comb. And to do that, we use what we call a diz. This is just a diz that I have made, repurposed a plastic spork because the spoon surface makes a nice diz type shape. It's a concave surface. Drill a hole in there, and you've got a hole through which we're going to pull the fibers. So just kind of bring these guys to a point, taper them, twist them a little, get them through the hole of the diz. And then from here, you're essentially just kind of drafting a little bit and then pushing your diz, and drafting a little bit and pushing your diz. And in this way, you're trying to draw out a consistent stream of fibers into what we will call combed top. And one thing to know about combed top like this is that since you're working from the tips of the fibers inward, you are necessarily going to get the longest fibers at the beginning of your top, and you're working your way towards the shortest fibers. If you are working with a multi-coated fleece, that might be an issue, in which case you might want to reblend them after this to get a more consistent combination of the fibers for spinning. But this Jacob has staple length pretty consistent over the fleece, so we're not going to worry about that. Alright, so then again we've got these short bits left. That'll be waste that we could maybe comb or card into something else. But then here's our lovely combed top, and look at how beautiful and light and fluffy and consistent and open that is. I'm going to roll that into a little bird's nest type deal for later spinning, and I will also provide a little bit of this top that I'm combing for each of your fiber packs, so you get the benefit of getting to experience this in real life.